former Ambassador Scott Brown. Senator, it's great to have you on the Scott Sands Show.
Hey, Scott, it's great to be on. Great to be on.
So one of the big stories this election year and this cycle, I think, and it always boils down to the economy's stupid, is that we're paying more for everything. And you wrote an op-ed piece last month that life under Joe Biden is more costly for everyone but those on top. I would argue that it's more costly literally for everybody. People who are more successful, people who are more wealthy may be surviving better, but this economy is costing all of us more.
Well, that's true. It is illegal immigration. The border is number one. Who would have thought? But number two is absolutely the economy. And what people are going to do, they're going to reflect back to when President Trump was in charge. You know, you had the border was secure. You had lower interest rates. Your kids weren't living at home. Kind of, they could afford to go get a mortgage. Obviously, inflation was at an all-time low. And it's completely opposite now. So when they go into the polls, soon they'll be looking at, what was it like before and what is it like now? I mean, probably like a lot of your listeners, listen, I love to go in the grocery store. I speed shop. I know where everything is in my local BJ's or Costco or Market Basket or whatever it is. And I was in the other day, and it's just a dozen of medium-sized eggs was like $4.29. I mean, come on, bacon's $8.99, and then you throw in the gas, it's back up to almost $4. And depending on where you live, obviously in California, which is crazy, it's much higher. But it's out of control, and you have a lot of bureaucrats who are basically revving that engine. If the president seems like he's kind of fumbling and bumbling and tripping, well, he's got people working for him who are very sharp, who really want to change the direction of this country.
And it's almost as if they're doing it intentionally, because if you look at this, it's the perfect storm of multiple economic decisions made by this administration. Everything, even going back to the Trump administration, which allowed the stimulus package to go through during the pandemic, which was a massive mistake while shutting down the economy for all of the wrong reasons, followed immediately by the American Rescue Plan, that so-called bipartisan infrastructure package, the attempts to forgive student loan debt, and the Fed horribly trying to manipulate the economy and inflation rates and interest rates. All of these things coming together is driving inflation even higher. We're supposed to be in that transitory period, and it hasn't gone down at all.
Yeah, well, you nailed it. All those things. I mean, all bad decisions. Now Biden's trying to, vote by eliminating a lot of that student debt. It's basically a screw you to taxpayers, Congress, and the Supreme Court. But, you have Lena Khan, who's the head of the Federal Trade Commission, and people saying, what the heck is that? Who cares about that? Well, you should care. It used to be basically a bipartisan group that would deal with a lot of the issues and high tech and issues that the FTC deals with. Well, she's kind of weaponized it. She's going around with the EU, working with them to try to basically make and cut off at the knees our businesses, allowing for backdoors in our high tech industry and a lot of our apps and things like that. Really putting a wet blanket over that industry and allowing China and others to have access to our technology. And it's out of control. And we're going to have a real problem if Biden's in there again, I'll tell you.
Yeah, you're right about Lena Khan and your op-ed. Life under Biden more costly for everyone but those on top. We're talking to former Senator Scott Brown here on the Scott Sands Show. And normally the Federal Trade Commission, the FTC, is supposed to be there to protect the consumers. Really, they're setting up an aggressive policy now, which doesn't benefit us, the consumer, at all.
Well, if in fact some of her policies go through, I mean, she's going after Amazon, she's going after a lot of those big high tech industry companies. It used to be that the consumer welfare standard places the priorities of customers, not companies, first and foremost. Well, it's a good thing. You get your package the next day. You have the ability to have your Google Maps and go somewhere instantaneously, putting photos on your app. All those things will go away if, in fact, she's successful in her efforts. But more importantly, it's that one-size-fits-all where they're putting these restrictions on these startup companies, the same as the larger companies. And listen, this is one example. You could go to the EPA. You could go, look at the VA, wonderful angels working there. But, they're always in deficit, and there's so much red tape. You look at the post office, what's $10-12 billion in deficit. It's just everything the government touches is just not good. That's why I'm a strong states' rights believer, thinking we can do it way better than the federal government for sure. There's a role for the federal government, but it isn't this.
So one of the things that stood out from your op-ed was pointing out that Ohio Senator J.D. Vance has actually praised Lena Khan's control over the Federal Trade Commission, which would be unusual for someone who purports to be a populist like J.D. Vance.
Yeah, I was shocked at that. We've had some Republicans who I think are misguided when it comes to supporting her and the efforts they're doing to basically dismantle our high-tech industry. And if there are issues with the high-tech industry, which we've obviously known about, great, let's address it, but let's not cut them off at the knees and completely dismantle them. Yeah, I was a little shocked about that. I'd love to debate him on that particular issue. I think he's absolutely positively wrong when it comes to this issue, especially.
Is that a red flag for many of the changing attitudes and opinions in the Republican Party overall? I mean, there's a battle right now for the hearts and minds of the GOP, and I'm not sure which side is winning.
Listen, I think the American people should be winning for once and for all. How about that? Putting America's interests first and instead of these partisan petty interests. I mean, I don't know if you understand, but we're in deep trouble. I know you do, and I know your listeners do, but we're in deep, deep trouble. I mean, you look what's happening. When I was there, it was $9 trillion national debt, and we were getting it somewhat under control.
Yeah, $9 trillion is pocket change now. We could take care of that in a month.
Yeah, $34 trillion, no plan in sight. It's outrageous. And what's happening at the border, it's criminal. What's happening, obviously, with fentanyl, what's happening overseas with, whether you like Trump or not, he got us out of these wars. We were in a good position. The border was secure, but that's not happening under Biden, and it's getting dangerous, more and more dangerous every day.
With views like this, how were you able to become senator in such a blue state as Massachusetts?
Well, listen, I was blessed. I'm honored. My parents are married and divorced 4 times each. I was arrested at 12 stealing. Listen, I've had a lot of challenges, but I do know the value of a dollar. I do speak very plainly. And Massachusetts is so liberal. They wanted somebody who was not like the rest. They had 50-plus years of Ted Kennedy. And, I'm going to I'm a Scott Brown Republican. I'm going to read the bills, see how they affect our state, our country, our debt, and our deficit, and vote. I don't care who sponsors it. If it's good for the American people, then I'm going to support it. And they'll tell you what, I'm just so angry right now with what's going on. I'm getting that itch again, Scott. I have a rock band. We're playing all over New England. We may be going down to the convention. So when you played Bon Jovi, we play Bon Jovi. I've met him. I know him. I love him. And, I'm just like, I'm done. And I hope everyone listening is done, and they get involved in the local school committees. They can be on the cemetery commission. I don't care. That's where it starts. Just get involved, because this stuff's got to stop.
It all starts at local retail politics, and that filters its way. Eventually, it may be years, decades from now, but hopefully it filters its way up. And as I said, there is a battle right now for both the Republican Party's main principles, but also the main principles of the Democrat Party, which we're seeing pulled further and further to the left. So, and we're talking to former U.S. Senator, former Ambassador Scott Brown here on the Scott Sands Show. So as you talk about opening the tent up for more voters in the Republican Party, how can we do that under somebody like Donald Trump, who I will vote for? I'm not crazy about everything that he has said or done, but his policies have worked, and I will vote for him again because it's better than Joe Biden by 1,000%. However, I'm not sure what another 4 years of Donald Trump does for the Republican Party.
Yeah, no, listen, that's a great argument. Don't forget you have RFK Jr. He's got ballot access. He's going to get. He's polling at 22%, depending on where you look, and he's got.
And is actually pulling from. He's pulling from some Republicans now.
Yeah, of course he is. Yeah, because they're the anti-Trumper, the Haley folks are there. Then you have the Blue Dog Democrats who, hate Biden and hate AOC and all what they're doing. JFK would never get elected right now. Are you kidding me? So
JFK would be a rhino right now.
Correct. He wouldn't even be in the party. So, yeah, listen, we have a lot of soul-searching to do, but I'm a Ronald Reagan guy. Listen, pick it. Is it 70, 80% friend versus 100% enemy, 50%, 60%? What's that number? So we can actually, here they are, they're fighting all the time in Congress, the GOP House especially, and they were sent there to deal with the economy. Is doing everything but, just bitching and moaning and stop,
Look up Scott Brown's op-ed, Life Under Biden, More Costly for Everyone But Those on Top. It's in the Union, Leader, and other publications. And Scott, where can we find out more about the Competitiveness Coalition?
Well, certainly you can find us on Twitter, X, just go Competitiveness Coalition. You can reach me at SEN, S-E-N, Scott Brown, or Scott Brown and the Diplomats on Facebook, Twitter. They're our rock band coming and bring us down. Ohio would love to play.
I'd love to have you here, and I'd love to have you on the show again.
Hey, anytime, Scotty. Thank you. Continued success. Bye-bye.